Yes. If you're watching live, that of course means, as it always does, it's noon Eastern time on a Wednesday time for the High Noon Hemp Show. Of course, if you're watching live or video on demand, you can do that in many places. Facebook, of course, the Temptations Beach Facebook page. You can do that on YouTube. It's the Jedi Hemp YouTube channel. And on Twitter, it is at Hemptations. Of course, the podcast version, find those in various places: Podbean, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. Just search the High Noon Hemp Show. I am Stoner Jesus. He is Beach, high above the Hemptations location in Sharonville, Ohio, at the Hemp Quarters. Beach, how are things this week and on this dreary day in Cincinnati at Hemptations?
It is definitely a dreary day. Welcome, everyone, to the High Noon Hemp Show, episode 199 this week. Next week, we're going to have some confetti, or maybe I'll make some hemp confetti and throw it. It's going to be a big one. It is true that I am high above the Hemptations in Sharonville for this episode and almost all episodes of the High Noon Hemp Show. Remember that the FDA has not evaluated this show for safety or efficacy.
That's right.
I do want to show, I think I sent the picture of the Purple Heart products over. This was kind of fun. I did start, I promised everyone that I was going to start possibly like trying to show like every product and thing we've ever shown. So I started to do this, and this is 15 different products. I love this heart little pattern, so to speak. And it just so happened that the needle point that my employees were working on the hemp was like perfect for the middle of the heart. But I am starting to put 15 products on a page. And then I'm going to try to figure out how to get all of those on a page and just see just how many different products that we've talked about, either on the product spotlight or in the news. So these are both. These are both going to be products that we sell, as well as products that I've talked about on the news that are out there. So it's going to be pretty fun, I think. So we'll see how it comes together by next week, by the 200th episode of the show, which I cannot believe. Thank you, everyone, for supporting us for the last 3.5 years. I want to say we've been doing this. It's just crazy.
I think it's a little over 4 now, if I remember correctly. I think it was September 2018.
Well, if I was to guess, then it's 4.2 years.
4.20.
4.20 years we've been on the air. That's when our 200th episode is going to happen. When we've been on the air for 4.20 years. I love it. All right, well, let's just jump right into the product spotlight. Got a lot in the news today. Pretty exciting stuff, good stuff. But let's get to the product spotlight. The first one here, these are mostly, I'm thinking, gifts. If you give a gift for the holidays, whatever holiday you support or celebrate, I should say. You got to compare. How about some Kentucky Hemp Outfitters? Again, we all know that these are like my favorite jeans ever in the history of time. So, I think the only about waist size we don't have probably is the 36. Different inseams. But this is our selection in the Sharonville store. This is where all these picks are taken. There should be some in some of the other locations if there's a size in a location. If there isn't a size in a location that you're looking for, let us know and we'll try to get it there. Just tell the person working to call the other store, Sharonville, and see if they have the size you're looking for, and we'll figure out how to get it to your location. And then how about duffel bag? Know anybody needs a good duffel bag, travel bag? What a great gift. If you know someone that travels a lot and they're eco-friendly and need a new bag, maybe. How about a good old-fashioned duffel bag? Something that's good to take to the gym. All kinds of good ideas there with a good hemp duffel bag. How about a hemp hoodlamp jacket? These are the ladies styles that we have out in the Sharonville location. Once again, we have a huge selection of sizes and colors. But I am probably going to, and I will post something online, but probably maybe for the next week, hemp hoodlamp jackets may go on sale, as well as some other products that would be good gifts that I think people would enjoy saving some money on because they're not cheap. I will warn you. Of course, every hemp hoodlamp jacket that I've had, I've probably had for 10 years. I think the only one that really is showing wear is my very first one, which I probably wore like every day in the winter that I got it 20 years ago. And so very, very well made quality wear. It's vegan, so it's vegan wool or whatever that is there, fur, so to speak. Hidden pockets, fun pockets, cool, really, really good stuff there with the hemp hoodlamp jackets. You'll be seeing more of those on me as it starts to get really cold here. I'll be wearing more of those in the What Are You Wearing Beach segment coming up soon. And then how about a nice long sleeve button down? Anybody would enjoy a nice long sleeve button down? Multiple colors and sizes available. Again, this is in the Sharonville store. If you see something here that you like and we don't have the size or color in your location, again, let the person working know, and we'll get them stocked up, because I know we have a decent amount of these in back stock. I don't know what sizes we have a lot of or a little of, but I know we have a decent amount of these in back stock. Probably another item that will go on sale next week.
Nice
for the holiday shoppers. And then the one from my door, I got the product spotlight 4 from the store. One from my door is a product that I just picked up recently. We were in the aisle looking at the chai, and we tend to do a lot of instant stuff now. And these teas were there, and I looked at the tea and I was like, it's peace flavored. And of course, I really love my flavors that don't tell you, what kind of blue, calling something Arctic as a flavor. What does that even mean? But it's peace flavors. So, here we go. What does peace taste like?
That's right.
Well, if you look closely, you will see that peace tastes like hemp seed oil, because there is hemp seed oil in here. I started looking at it and I was like, oh my gosh, this product has, and I didn't even notice the leaves. Usually my eye is drawn to a hemp leaf, like, I don't want to say it, I don't know what, someone that pays attention to something precisely, because I spot a hemp leaf from across the room. But I was more on the looking at the piece and the organic, and then I get down, I'm like, this is spearmint tea, basically, with ashwagandha, no less, and a hemp seed oil. So I've really been enjoying these. Great, perfect time of year for a peppermint tea. You don't really taste the ashwagandha, I don't think, or the hemp seed oil a whole lot. But really, really enjoying this find that, at the local grocery store. And again, every time I go, I tend to scour a section just to see, like one time I scoured the chips just to see if there were some hemp chips on the shelves. This time we were, looking at the teas, and I tend to look at everything. I'm hyper attentive, and so that's why I start looking at stuff, and that's why I noticed this. And yet another hemp product added to the pantry shelves of the Beach household. The Beach Done household, I should say. So it's good stuff. Look for that at your local grocery store. Now on our shelves, and it's good. It's it's good peppermint tea. Again, great time of year for something like this as well. So there you have it from the product spotlight here on the High Noon Hemp Show. 4 from the store, 1 from my door.
Which, of course, brings us to something I've asked Beach now almost 200 times in our interactions together, which is crazy thing about in and of itself. You think I'm obsessed with what Beach is wearing, because I'm always asking him about it, like I'm about to do right now when I ask, what are you wearing, Beach?
That's right. If you're curious, you'd like to know, what are you wearing, Beach? Well, it's another purple and green outfit. Purple and green are store colors. I tend to wear purple and green quite a bit. I know I wore it just a couple weeks ago. It was a little purple and green outfit. It might have even been the same jacket. I don't remember. But up on top there, that is a grassroots Mochi Pet hat. I don't know what the Mochi Pet is. I think I said that the last time I wore this on the show. I don't know what Mochi Pet is, but it's a very cool hat. It's got a purple underneath the brim you can barely see. And then, of course, that bright green really matches my jacket. Of course, the green that I trimmed this picture in with, it was really hard to pick a green because none of them really matched. But anyway, we got Hemp Hoodlam High hoodie, zip-up hoodie there. Underneath that is one of my Ono Hemptations University tees printed right here at Planet Everywhere Manufacturing. A Hempy's belt holding my Kentucky Hemp Outfitter jeans up. You see in the pocket there my good old Green Screen Technologies pen. Green Spring Technologies. I don't know why I spelled that wrong on here for the first time ever in the history of time. That was kind of weird. Also, underneath it all are the pair of Hempist briefs. You can go to their website. I think it's The Hempist or Hempist, and find a good shopping list there. I hope still. I haven't been there for a while. Satori socks, just plain Satori socks, and a pair of New Balances, which I don't wear a whole lot, but work well with my Hemp Hoodlam High zip-up jacket there. Kind of a floral and green pattern. And that's it. So if you were wondering, what are you wearing, Beach? Now you know.
Indeed.
All right. Well, let's get on to the news because there's quite a bit in it this week. The first good news is Brittany Griner was released. They finally worked out that swap. Again, and this really, to me, actually brought to light there is actually another prisoner, and this was everybody was really, there was one prisoner that Russia would not deal with. We tried to get him home, they wouldn't work with us on it, and so the one suspected of espionage is still there, but there is actually another. It's not, they're not high profile, but someone that had cannabis. Once again, didn't realize had a prescription here, medicine, but had cannabis. And he is in prison in Russia right now and deserves all the attention that Brittany got for being locked up draconianly, in draconian style, and needs to come home. And so, I know that Brittany and her family have said they're going to dedicate themselves to making sure that every person that's locked up undeservedly in Russia finds their way home. So, it was, I know everybody was complaining because they really wanted this other, he's been there for 4 years, I know, but it was Russia's fault, not ours. And we are still working with Russia, from my understanding. But nobody deserves to be locked up in Russia for such stupid things. That's for sure. We don't even do that here anymore. I don't think, although maybe depending on where you are, you might still get locked up for having cannabis for a while. Personal amounts, I just can't imagine anywhere. I just cannot imagine, but we're not quite there yet. So, we'll see how that works, but, want to kind of pay attention to this other cannabis user that's been locked up over there. And I guess he's like a teacher. It's like, yeah. But don't go to Russia is really the lesson from here on out.
Yeah.
Don't go to Russia. Article on CBD for diabetes. says although it doesn't really help with blood sugar issues, it does help with inflammation and oxidative stress. And so they're really going to start looking into, I think, how and what amounts may be beneficial to diabetics. But again, it doesn't help necessarily with the blood sugar issue, but could help with any type of inflammation, which we know diabetics go through, and oxidative stress. I'm not sure what that is, but if you're diabetic, you probably know. And so, yet again, CBDs. Find some other ailment where we may be able to get some relief from an all natural substance as opposed to having to take pharmaceuticals. This is interesting. The article stating that CBD, this person met with the FDA apparently and is very positive that CBD will be approved by the FDA in 2023. But the article, the person that wrote the article also still believed that CBD was on the controlled substance list. Okay. CBD extracted from industrial hemp is not on the controlled substance list. Okay. So let's just get that straight. CBD extracted from what they call marijuana or cannabis with more than 0.3% THC would be on the controlled substance list. But industrial hemp, CBD, industrial hemp, was taken off the controlled substance list with the 2018 Farm Act. And so this person is very, very misunderstood as to the current CBD laws to begin with. But they did say they met with the FDA, and they were very positive about the fact that the FDA was, in fact, going to try to make a ruling on, and of course we've heard this before, on CBD in 2023. So we'll see what happens to CBD in 2023, because we also will have a farm bill, I believe, put on paper, which really it should be on paper now and sign next year, because that's normally how it is. And they do it every 4 years, but then sign it in the 5th year. So I'm not sure why we actually aren't talking about a done farm bill, and maybe it's almost done, and it'll be this every 5 years, and it's actually every 5 years. So they're finishing it up and they'll sign it next year. So I know we're getting close to that. So there is a farm bill that should come up in 2023, and we'll see what they do to hemp, or if they make any changes to the current hemp or don't. We'll see. I'll talk about that here in a minute, because I have more on that in a minute. In an article titled 7 Very Philly Gifts, this includes Pathfinder. I think I shot a picture of this, and I think I've talked about the Pathfinder. This is a non-alcoholic hemp-based spirit. Now, this isn't hemp infused. This is actually fermented hemp. So they say it tastes like cola with a little bitter and floral notes. So I'm really kind of curious, what we tend to see with alcohol or non-alcoholic drinks is that they tend to be infused with hemp. This was actually fermented hemp. So I'm really curious. Obviously, this is coming out of Philadelphia, and I did see that you can buy this online. So, and I love it. It says hemp and roots on the bottle. That's like the ingredients: hemp and roots. Which I feel like if I'm going to have a drink, that's what I want. I want hemp and roots. I do like root beer, or root beer, depending on where you are. So anyway, get yourself some Pathfinder non-alcoholic. I mean, I would assume this would be good to drink with cola, or just take little sips of it. I don't know. But, there's a lot more non-alcoholic stuff going around out there. And a lot of it, the hemp is really making its way into the non-alcoholic part of things first, I think. But there are some alcoholic hemp out there as well. So fun stuff. Here is a pic of a little Colorado cabin in the woods, which they used hempcrete and hemp insulation on. And of course, it is carbon negative. So I think that, I think we're going to start hearing a lot more about construction wanting to be carbon negative. And one of the only ways I think you're going to be able to do that is to start throwing some hemp in there, one way or another. For the record, Paul McCartney never endorsed CBD gummies, nor is he dead. That was the article, and of course the CBD gummies thing. I've been reporting on this basically since we started the show, but apparently they used Paul McCartney's face, and of course that's pretty believable. I think that's one of the first ones that might be even somewhat believable, is that Paul McCartney would endorse CBD gummies, but it's a scam. And of course, if you don't know, there is a conspiracy theory that Paul was killed very young and replaced with the current Paul that we have, which is absurd. I mean, there's a whole documentary that if you watch it, they do a great job of trying to convince you. Because apparently there was an auto accident, and apparently it was Paul that was in the auto accident when they were young, and he was killed, and there were witnesses that said, "Oh, that's Paul McCartney, and he's dead." And then all of a sudden, the reason was, one of the reasons that the government did this, the government in England did this, was because they feared that this was why they supposedly replaced him, is they feared that the suicide rate would go up exponentially if the girls found out that Paul McCartney was dead, and possibly boys. I don't know. And so that was why. That was the theory of why the government did this. But you can't take a talent and replace it with an equal amount of talent when they're that talented. By the way, you can find somebody that looks like them, but you can't replace their talent. So anyway. That's the latest rumor with the gummies and using fake IDs. Based on research by Women's Health, CBG. Now we do a little bit of CBG stuff. We don't see a whole lot of CBG. We do. I know we've got, not that you want to smoke, but CBG smokes. In the flower, and I think maybe a tincture. But they believe that CBG may help with Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, MS, Parkinson's, Huntington, and anxiety. Now, we know that CBG has a lot of the same kind of effects as CBD, but, I think one's going to go a little bit this way, and one's going to maybe go a little bit this way as to specifically doing. We know that it helps with Parkinson's. We know that cannabis helps with Crohn's disease. Is CBG going to be that better cannabinoid once again? And we can get high percentages of CBG in flower. So we can get high percentages of THC delta 9. We can get high percentages of CBG, low percentages of delta 9, high percentages of CBG, and high percentages of CBD in flower, in industrial hemp flower. And so that's why I think they're going to start looking more into CBG. And CBG doesn't give you, there's no side effects. It's much like CBD. It works when you don't feel anything, i.e. if your anxiety is gone, it's working. If your pain is gone, it's working. If you're getting better sleep, it's working. But you're not getting a buzz like you would from, Delta 9 or 8, Delta 8, Delta 10, those things. So out of 2,400 respondents on CBD use, and I may have already actually talked about this study, but I think that it's pretty intriguing. And I believe this was pain relief. 42% said they gave up their pharmaceuticals after starting to use CBD. 66% said it worked better than any over-the-counter drug. So two out of three people basically using CBD said it worked better than any over-the-counter substance. And then 52% said that it worked better than their prescription medicines. So, roughly 10% of people that started to use CBD for pain kept using their prescription drugs. 42% of that 52% just stopped using their pharmaceuticals and only used CBD. And again, the goal for anyone should really be to not be on pharmaceuticals, synthetic pharmaceuticals, which is what all of them are for the most part, prescription drugs. And so, once again, knowing that that's a lot of respondents. It's not just 10 people and 4 people said, yeah, it helps. We're talking 2,400 people. So we're talking almost 1,000 people out of this study gave up their pharmaceuticals because of CBD. Okay. And 1,800 or so said that CBD worked better than over-the-counter substances. So that's pretty good results. I'm not making this stuff up. It's not my study. But we sure like to see them. And we definitely like to see studies. The more people in the study, the better, in my opinion, the results. More important that the results be, honestly, especially when you see numbers this high. Reebok and Maharashi. I know I showed you a pair of these, which were more natural color. Now I guess they're releasing the black version of this. And of course, this has hemp on it. I'm not sure what parts of this are hemp, to be honest with you. It does look like, not the shiny black, but the duller black may be the hemp fabric. And I think that's what they were on the natural ones, is that, it was, a lot of the upper is hemp, but not all of the upper is hemp. It doesn't look like, they kind of reinforce with a thicker on the back, on the bottoms, which doesn't make sense. Because I can tell you, on most of my hemp shoes, when they wear out on the sides. And again, like my hemp boots, I'll have to take a picture of it close up so you can really see. It's like they're like ripped all the way down the side, but they still are okay. It's like the hemp kind of tore or came apart. But it's still kind of, the shoe itself is still staying together, and you can't really tell unless you look closely. So there's another good for Reebok getting, trying to get some hemp shoes out there. They don't have a whole lot of Reeboks. I don't know, now that I think about it, that I own a pair of hemp Reeboks. I have Adidas, Nike, Puma. No, I don't know if I have Pumas. I think I have Puma. Converse, Levi, Wicked, Ecolution. I'm just trying to think of all the shoes that I have and who made them. I did find my old, I believe they're Eco Dragon boots. I think that's who made them. I'll have to get a picture of those. Well, probably my first pair of hemp boots. I think I've talked about those before. But okay, so the USDA, which I think is interesting because I didn't realize that they really had this jurisdiction over hemp, okay, has announced that it is going to continue to suspend the requirement of hemp being tested in federal labs. So this was part of, I think this might have been, and this is something that we're hoping maybe they'll take out of the last Farm Bill, because this might have been in the last Farm Bill. And again, they have never been able to do it because, A, there aren't enough federal testing labs across the country to keep up with hemp farming. So they have never actually enforced this rule of having to have your hemp tested in a federal lab. So they moved the date, which is interesting. Still going to happen in 2023, but it was supposed to happen January 1st. They moved it to December 31st. So it went from the first day of the year to the last day of the year. And hopefully what this will do was maybe in this farm bill, we'll take that out of the farm bill, and then it'll be a moot issue by December 31st, because it's really, really government overreach. The government writes the law, says you have to have this tested, and then they tell you can only have it tested in their labs. I feel like that's like mafia shit. Use my language. I don't cuss a lot, but I mean, to me, that's just straight up extortion.
Yeah.
And so, and does not, that's a monopoly. So that all of a sudden they have a monopoly. The federal government has a monopoly on industrial hemp testing. Come on, that's not legal. That's not even constitutionally legal. So, and again, in my opinion, I don't think there should be a requirement to test your hemp. Okay, I think that you should have to have a complaint against you, and then they test your hemp to see if it's hot. But, and again, if you take a hot product and you put it in a bottle and it's got 0.4% THC by dry weight, then you're going to get in trouble for that. Eventually, someone's going to find out. That, or people are going to not really notice and not care, and so it's not that big of a deal. But so they're on the lookout for that kind of stuff. There's no doubt about it. And again, they're no different than anything else. But right now it is still government overreach when it comes to licensing, permits, testing, all of that. I mean, it should be treated like corn, just like a cornfield. If you grew marijuana in your cornfield, then you may or may not get in trouble for it. Okay? Just like if you were to somehow grow marijuana or that 0.4%. Now, if it's just a little hot, it's not criminal. You just have to destroy it. And so, that's the good thing is if it does come up over a percentage of THC, they treat you like a criminal up to that point for the most part, but you are not then, there are no criminal charges for that. Now, if you came up, 5% or 10% or something, then you would have criminal charges, I'm sure. But as long as it's really close, there is like a leeway there that if you test it's a little bit higher on your THC content, your crop is considered hot, and then they destroy it. But no criminal charges are brought, which is good. Which does remind us we need to bring up that THC percentage to begin with, or come up with. This is one of the greatest things that I learned recently. Was the fact that there really should be an exemption if your product's going to be made out of fiber, the hemp fiber, or if your product's going to be made out of hemp grain, then that byproduct should be exempt, because THC does not go into that anyway. So if you're making a pair of jeans out of the industrial hemp, it doesn't make any difference if it's 0.3% or 40% THC in that. There's not going to be any THC in the jeans. Same with the foods. If the seed is cleaned properly, there is no THC in the seed. The only THC could be there would be on the surface. If there's a really high amount of THC flower, which doesn't make it industrial hemp, obviously. And so, I thought that was probably one of the best things I had heard recently was this movement to exempt fiber and grain from that 0.3% THC to begin with, which I think is 100% responsible and the right thing to do, one way or another. Let's see here. Yeah, 3D printers are said to work better with hempcrete than traditional concrete. Now, I did show pictures, months ago, I have to go find those, of a house that was being 3D printed hempcrete here in the United States. I think that this is, in fact, going to be a very much used form of building houses out of Crete in the future. Just gonna it's it's just really a couple poles and the lines, and the machine just takes it back and forth, and it goes this way. And so I think I read that it's even cheaper. Like it only costs $25,000 to print a house.
Wow.
And so that is insanely great. If you could, that's it. We could conceivably build decent housing that would retail, go to the market for 70 to 80,000, I think, and very easily, which is really all a house should cost. One way or another. Throw some solar panels on the top of it, and really make it even more environmentally friendly, but bring your costs down overall through the years, one way or another. And so I do think that smaller to medium sized houses, we're going to see more 3D printing being used, and we don't need big houses. Nobody needs a big house. If you got 10 kids, maybe you need a big house, but you don't need 10 kids. If you got your average 2 kids, nobody needs a big house. It's true. So let's start printing more, and we are seeing more across the world, 3D printing using hempcrete, and hempcrete being used across the world either way. So good on them. Yet another story about a professional boxer who used CBD for a jaw injury and started his own line. So this boxer, I don't remember his name, it's not important, and this was like 3 years ago. He started using CBD for a jaw injury, which makes sense. I'm sure boxers have a lot of jaw injuries. And then the CBD worked so well that he decided to go ahead and endorse or come up with his own line of CBD products. And again, there's no word of mouth and testimonies. There's nothing better than that. And so, here's more proof that if you're in the fight industry, CBD can probably help you one way or another. And of course, they're on board. They've accepted CBD sponsorships, at least mixed martial arts. I don't know about boxing, but mixed martial arts they've been accepting major CBD sponsorships for years. And again, no athlete should be denied the ability to use CBD or hemp, for that matter. And of course, hemp they can use. And again, the protein in hemp is great for anyone that lifts weights or is, concerned about, that protein content to keep up with their muscle regiments, so to speak. So, Cecil Rugs, I think we got a picture of this, and Home Goods. So they do rugs and home goods. This is kind of fun. They're in the States here, but they actually used a government contract to develop hemp fiber. It's kind of fun because they used this contract, and then they basically said, well, this made us hemp experts when it comes to hemp fiber experts. And so I was talking about rugs. I think I read in the article about these guys that the average rug that you go by can have 50 plus different chemicals in it. And, I talked about this with the rugs or the mattress. I think when I was talking about the mattresses tend to have more chemicals in them than they need. Rugs apparently have more chemicals in them than they probably need. And of course, it's kind of going back to a traditional kind of rope style rug. But I want to hope that they're doing this bedding too, because it looks like hemp. But they didn't really see any prices, and it's Cicil, CICIL, relatively new. And again, they're rugs and home goods company, so I'll have to kind of check out and see what their prices look like if they're online. But made themselves hemp experts and hemp fiber experts as they were developing their products, which, I don't know how much of an expert you need, other than I think what you learn there, and this is what the industry needs, is to say, okay, you're going to make a hemp rug. What's that fiber need to look like? What's its thickness? What's its ounce? Because we talk about fiber with ounces. Is it a 4-ounce weight? Is it a 16-ounce? Most canvas is like a 16-ounce weight. That rug theirs could be a 50-ounce weight, 100-ounce. I'm not sure. But really looking at what you need, is it going to go in a pair of shoes? What kind of weave does it need? Is it going to go in a pair of pants? What kind of weave? Because we can do a jean weave, we can do a linen weave, we could do a silk weave, all these things come into. And if you use the wrong weave for the product, no matter how strong that hemp might be, it just might not last as long or work because of how it's in there. So, and I think that's the thing that we have to develop here in the United States, because China controls the hemp fiber market. 70% of the hemp fiber in the world comes from China. The other 30% is probably Europe, which makes it very expensive to get it here. Okay, we can get it somewhat cheaply from China, but it's coming from China. And again, I'm a one world person. I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody. When it comes from Europe, it becomes really expensive to try to get it here. But my understanding is especially in Italy grows the finest fiber, industrial hemp fiber. We can thank the Chinese for coming up with a lot of the weaves that we have right now. But we need to be doing that here. We need to be growing it here. We need to be weaving it here, and we need to be using it here in products here. Because that makes it even more environmentally friendly. The only problem I really have with getting hemp from China is the impact on the environment to get it here. To be honest with you, that's probably the worst of it. I'm not trying to take anything from hemp farmers in China or hemp manufacturers in China, even though I know they're not treating their employees the way they should. Probably. But it's mostly machine work one way or another, I believe. Article on rope making is kind of fun because the very first sentence says most traditional ropes were made of hemp, which is 100% true. No matter where you were in the world, most more than likely, your hemp rope was made your rope was probably made from hemp for a long time. So that's kind of fun. I'm glad hemp gets a credit. A lot of times they don't. They just ignore those type of things, because this was really just an article about a hemp making machine, which is just a wheel that you put your fiber on and weave, and then so on. But gave the history of rope, and of course, you can use sisal, or you can weave, just about any fiber if you do it right. So good stuff. Getting your 100 grams of protein daily article includes 1 tablespoon, which is 7 grams of protein, with the vegetarian and the vegan recommendations. So, they had meat eaters, like get your protein from meat eaters, which is pretty easy for the most part. And then omnivores, which is a little bit of mix between obviously plant and meat. And then they had a vegetarian, and then they had a vegan. And so it's just 1 tablespoon. 1 tablespoon, 7 grams of protein. And so, once again, it's in my opinion, the best plant-based protein you can get. Still proving that one way or another. Here's a little ginger turmeric latte recipe. And this actually comes from an endurance athlete named Rich Roll. He had two recipes. One was, I think, for an espresso, or I forget, but they were coffee drinks. And then this ginger turmeric latte with the recipe with hemp seed, hemp hulled seed, which is kind of interesting. And so screenshot that if you want to make yourself a ginger turmeric latte. I might have to try that one because I'm intrigued. Ginger has an interesting taste, and turmeric has an interesting taste. Now, turmeric is like the latest and greatest you see in everything now because it's supposed to be, pretty healthy for you. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see maybe about that. Well, the New York governor, he believes so much in hemp that he signed a hemp bill to encourage. One thing that they were encouraging was to use hemp packaging. Now, it's kind of interesting because I feel like part of the bill was possibly going after plastic packaging. So if you're using plastic packaging, but just in the cannabis world, like not Joe Schmo's grocery store, you got to replace this packaging with hemp packaging, or you're going to get, it was like a deposit like they do with Coke bottles. Like you can bring your hemp packaging or your oil-based plastic packaging back and get a little bit of a credit to make sure that it gets recycled as opposed to thrown away, I believe. But part of this was really encouraging using hemp or all natural packaging in the industry as well. So I'd love to see some federal environmental packaging labor laws. Boy, how about that? We don't have any federal recycling. Josie, get off of there. We don't have any federal recycling laws, which we should. And, like federal environmental packaging laws, man, that would be great. If the government's going to tell us what to do, why don't they tell us what to do that's good for us or good for the planet, as opposed to telling us what to do that's just their agenda. If they're going to be there and they're going to do these things, then let's do them appropriately. Just like I believe that littering should be people should get just as many littering tickets as they give out speeding tickets. Mm-hmm. Right now, the ratio is probably 1,000 to 1. I don't know. If anybody, I'd be curious to see how many littering tickets are even given in places where littering is actually made illegal. And again, it's funny. I don't understand. I drive down the highway and I watch the government having to pay or use inmates or whatever, still government spent money to pick up litter on the side of the road. And that just enables litterers. Because the litter bug driving down the road says, they pay somebody to do that. They get somebody to pick up my litter. I'm going to pick it up. Instead of saying, thinking to yourself, if I throw this out the window, I could get $100 fine. That's it. Just make it $100, not $1,000. I've seen signs littering $1,000 fine for littering. Just make it $100. I think $100 to anyone is enough, honestly. $200 maybe. Make it so it's enough that people could still pay it. But then they can go out, I don't want to litter anymore. You don't want to litter. Just like you don't really want to get caught speeding because you don't want to pay the fine. And again, I have always said that picking up litter, and that's why I don't go out and pick up other people's litter, because that just enables the litter bug. All we're doing is saying, if you litter, I'm going to come pick it up. That's not the solution. We need to hold the litter bug accountable. And so, if it was made out of packaging was made out of hemp, wouldn't be so bad because that's biodegradable, compostable. Even, the hemp composite packaging is going to be, if done right, biodegradable at the very least. Hopefully compostable. Some of it will, if it's thin enough. So, transforming, once again, any plastic we can to hemp plastic. The littering wouldn't be so bad. I wouldn't have to bitch so much if it was hemp because it would just biodegrade and go back to the planet, and everything's good. Again, just because cigarette butts are biodegradable, it doesn't mean I want to look at them on the curb. Just because hemp packaging may be biodegradable, I don't think you should litter it still. But at least if you did, we wouldn't have to pay somebody to go pick it up. It would just biodegrade and be done, be gone. Nothing to worry about. So, these are the steps that we need to be going in the right direction. And I'm not sure that we are, but slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. How about this hempcrete apartment building? This is being built in the Ukraine, and this is part of the Hemp Ukraine Recover program. And it's hemp, Ukraine, recover, which also sounds like help Ukraine recover, which I think is great. The Ukraine is a huge producer of industrial hemp. I remember when George Bush Jr. was president, and this was a time when Russia was trying to do some funny things against the Ukraine. The White House actually implored us to buy hemp seed from Ukraine to support the Ukraine and their hemp industry. So, this is just one of 3 buildings. Going to have 30 apartments in each building, and they're all going to be connected eventually. So this is a 90 apartment building that they're building out of hempcrete over in the Ukraine, because once again, there's, they grow a lot of hemp, from my understanding, in the Ukraine. I have a picture of me, and I'll have to try to find it. I'm on a hemp composite bicycle. The body, the frame, was made out of hemp composite, and it was made in the Ukraine. So if I would have had more money then as I did now, I would have my own hemp bike. But, again, just proves you can really make anything out of the composite, if you do it right. All right, one more product here to show you. This is something I found at the gift aisle at the grocery store. So this is the Dr. Teal's, but you see on the right there, it's the Dr. Teal's hemp product. But this was in the gift aisle at the grocery store. And so, it's good to see that hemp's making his way onto the gift aisle, because it does make a great gift. I don't care what form it's in. It is a great gift to give during the holiday season, no matter what holiday you are celebrating. So keep your eyes out there for the hemp product, for that special gift for someone, whether it's Hanukkah or Christmas or Kwanzaa or Boxing Day or any of those. I think there's at least one other, I forget, holiday out there during the holiday season. And I'm not trying to take anything away from any one holiday or any other holiday. I'm just trying to respect them all. I'm not trying to take the Christmas out of Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. But guess what? Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Boxing Day. Happy holidays. I don't know why it's so offensive to say holidays. It's like the war on Christmas is what they started. Is what it's called, the war on Christmas. When you say happy holidays, it's a war on Christmas. No, it's not. There's more than one holiday. Enjoy them all. You can still enjoy yours more than the others. Just respect the others. Anyway. All right, folks. I will be back one more time before the holidays, so I'm sure I will have more holidays ideas next week. We'll be in Hanukkah next week's show, we will be in Hanukkah. Christmas will be close. Kwanzaa is a little bit away. And of course, Boxing Day is the day after Christmas in Canada. Those crazy Canucks. And I think it might be celebrated in Europe too, but I'm not positive. Possibly. So anyway, thanks everybody for watching the High Noon Hemp Show. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Remember, reduce, reuse, recycle. Make everything else out of hemp.
Having temptations?
Having temptations? I forgot it. What am I doing?
See y'all next week.
Whew.